Hi guys, welcome back to another video for UNE. This video is all going to be about advocacy for the elderly and the stuff I've learned while I've been in my internship, or to be more specific, the stuff that I've researched. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this issue is because it's not necessarily that the social work job at Genesis requires a whole lot of advocacy. Like, you have to be knowledgeable in multiple areas of resources that a client could possibly use. You have to be knowledgeable on, like, what does RAVNA do? What does BEATA do? What does the Council on Aging do? What does SASH do? Like, all these different resources. For a client we fear is being taken advantage of or abused in some way, there's Adult Protective Services and or the Council on Aging. And if we suspect something is going on with the client, we are supposed to report them. Is that the reality? No, apparently not. So I'll walk you through this with an instance of something I learned the other day. So we had a client come in and she had taken a fall. She had fractured or broken her hip to some degree, and basically it came down to she was doing well enough she didn't need to stay in Genesis, so we were trying to set up aftercare for her because that's part of the job. The problem is that she wanted to sign up for Medicaid, Medicare, and have them pay for RAVNA, which is the Visiting Nurses Association for Rutland County. They wanted the Medicaid, Medicare to pay for RAVNA instead of this lady. However, the problem is that she was just overfunded. We have that problem sometimes with clients where they've saved up a nest egg, let's say like $50,000 or something like that, and they're planning on giving that away to their children or to their grandchildren because that's what they want to do. They want to give back, and they don't want to dip into that. When you sign up for Medicare, which is the kind of health help that you get after you age 65, they look at the last 5 years of your financial statements. If they will question you on anything over $100. If you spent it or if it was put into your account, they will question you on it. Why did you do this with this? Why did you do this with this? Why did you do this with this? So we had this lady who, she had the $50,000 in her account. She was way overfunded. We're like, Medicaid, Medicare is not really going to be helping you out. You're going to have to spend money before you can sign up for this thing. And her daughter, like, got very nasty. Not only with Sarah, the social worker I'm interning under, she was just nasty. She got nasty with her mother. Like, it was very pointed. It was like to the point where you're in the meeting and you and the social worker are very visibly uncomfortable because this is like, even if it's a family dispute, it's highly unusual to like have that kind of dispute so blatantly out in the open, especially if it's over money. And the daughter stormed off and was very pissy, and like the mom was just, trying to stay calm. And so we went away because the daughter had said some things that had concerned me, some things about, her mom being a burden, like some very pointed, very angry things. And I'm talking to the person I'm interning, and Sarah, I'm talking to her and I'm going, this is ringing a lot of bells. Usually people aren't willing to be that nasty, especially with a family member, especially if they know they're potentially being judged for it. So I asked her, I was like, who are we supposed to report any of this to? She's like, well, we would have to report to Adult Protective Services. The problem is, if we do that, quote unquote, it will open up a way bigger can of worms than necessary. And at this point I was a little dumbfounded, and I also had to go grab the bus. So I came back the next day talking to Sarah, and she said she had gone to the lady's room after the daughter had left and like asked her some questions like, hey, do you fear for your safety? The regular kind of rigmarole you gotta go to in order to just assess, like, is this person afraid for life? And it turns out the mom was just like, that's just how my daughter is. She just is like that sometimes. But at the same time, in asking those questions, like, I'm having memories of like like being a kid and having DCF come into my home, and they're asking me all these questions about like, how safe do you feel, like, do you, like, have you been hurt, anything like that, and you always lied and said no because you didn't want to get the person you loved in trouble. And that can very well be a thing for the elderly. Plus, nobody likes to fess up to the idea that somebody's beating them up. If that was happening, I'm not saying it did, but it's always a possibility. Well, part of the thing that's the tricky part of advocacy, especially for the elderly, is they are an adult. Like, most definitely. They might be, you know, ages 65 and above, and they might suffer from dementia. They might suffer from, like, you know, some confusion because they have a lot of cancer and there's a lot of ammonia built up in the body. But even with that, until a doctor officially declares them incompetent, they must make their own decisions. Doesn't matter what kind of mental health stuff they have, until a doctor officially declares them mentally incompetent. We have to dance around the subject of, like, hey, is this person being harmed, with some very specific language, because if we don't, quote unquote, it will open up a bag of worms. Like there's different like parts to advocacy. It's not just like, hey, I'm concerned this person might be getting hurt, I'm concerned this person might be being abused. It can range anything from that to the nurses who are experts at this point, who know when they hear a death rattle and they're looking at somebody, they're going, this person is definitely dying, and the family does not want to admit it. It comes down to the social worker to go to the family and be like, hey, I know you really want what's best for your grandma, your grandpa, whatever in between, but we have to, but I want to recommend that we put them on a comfort care plan, in which case then we, as the social worker, are then advocating for them just being in the most comfortable place they can be medically, so that they can pass away and they're not, like, struggling to breathe. They're not, like, choking on their own breath because the family won't let them on morphine, because they think even though the person is dying, somehow they're still going to end up addicted to drugs. Just overall, the most I've learned is if there's an actual serious concern, the most I can turn to is Adult Protective Services. I can kind of turn to the Council on Aging, and they can sort out stuff with, like, how to get that family member, like, you know, separate housing if it happens that they're, you know, living with their daughter or son or whatever who happens to not be treating them well. There's, in Vermont specifically, we have the Elder Law Project, and the Elder Law Project is a resource that we can use is if the family member needs to have, like, needs to separate from the guardianship they have, because in Vermont it's possible that you can set yourself up as a guardian for an elderly person, but there must be some kind of diagnosis in place of some kind of, like, cognitive impairment or inability to function, right? If that person's taking advantage of you, you have the Vermont Law Project, which not only helps with that, it helps with all legal issues that an elderly person is facing, and it's specifically a set of lawyers and a set of resources that somebody who's elderly and going through the legal system can use that will fight for them on their behalf, so they're not, like, in court all day when they need to be in bed resting after, you know, they get hip surgery or something like that. Just specifically at Genesis, whenever advocacy happens, it's always the social workers advocating for the client to be in the best possible place they can be physically, so that they can do their activities of daily living, they can go about their life unfettered as possible. And that's what I've been learning. I hope that was helpful. I know it was a little rambly. I try not to be rambly, but I make no guarantees. Usually when I talk a lot. That's what you get. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was somewhat informative. I hope that I gave you some idea of what it's like to try and advocate for somebody who's elderly here in Vermont, specifically within a nursing home situation, and have a good day.